It's 7:01. I call the meeting to order. I want to thank everybody who's attending this meeting. It's good to see everybody. I hope everybody is staying warm and dry, even though it hasn't been too bad so far. I don't see any new members, so we have a returning member, Carrie.
Over there.
Lindsay's,
Yeah, Mark, K6ARC.
yeah, Mike, K6ARC, he's a new member.
Yep, I'm
Oh,
the member.
okay.
FNG.
Yeah, you were going to join last month. All right, it's good to see you. Or I think you did join.
All right, and Bob seems to have popped in and out, so he's going to be back in a moment.
Okay, good.
All right, so we have 12 here right now.
Correct. Yes. So, our board meeting, we can, I'll discuss what we discussed at the board meeting. The Christmas dinner is going to be on Saturday, December 4th at 12 noon at the hotel in Ione, the Ione Hotel Restaurant. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's right on Main Street. It's
Ione
at 12
Hotel.
noon. What?
It's the Ione Hotel.
Okay, there's no name to the restaurant.
As far as I know, it's just the Ione Hotel.
Okay, good. There's going to be a raffle. There's going to be an annual election of officers. There will be a choice of 3 entrees, and I will be sending out the invitations here within the next week for everybody to choose one of the entrees, and with a ballot for everybody to vote for our officers. We really need a club secretary. It's not much work, and just take minutes of the meetings, and basically that's it. So if anybody would like to volunteer for that, it would be greatly appreciated. But in addition to that, we'll have the annual election of officers. There are, I think, 2 members at large up for re-election this year. And everybody on the board is willing to be re-elected, except for the secretary position, which we don't have one right now. So that's
Except for Steve.
basically voting is going to entail.
Oh, I'm not available next year.
Right, he's moving, so
Okay.
he's not running for re-election to his at-large board seat.
Right. Well, he's one of the 2 members at large that are being,
Yeah.
their positions are open. Except for, was it Don, who's the member who's up for re-election this year? I can look at my notes. I'll figure it out. But anyway, so there'll be an election of officers, a wonderful meal, and a raffle, and everybody has a good time. So I hope everybody can make it. The second thing is that the bike ride this coming year will be is being held at the April 2nd. It's the first Saturday in April. It's a party bike ride. The bike organizers always ask our club to staff their sag wagons with an operator, and just to ride along with the operator, ride along with the driver, and it's no experience is necessary. We just need we require a mobile radio in a go box. Handhelds don't work out on the course, and if you need a mobile radio, I think we have one that's available to hand out. And if not, just bring along your mobile radio and that will work. Again, no experience is necessary. You're only required to do 4-hour shifts. And so we really, we need a lot of people to volunteer to do this. It's a lot of fun. Free breakfast or lunch, whatever, I guess it's a lunch that's provided by the bike club, and it's a lot of fun and it's very necessary to the club. So if you'd like to volunteer for that, we'll be sending out more details in the coming months, but set aside April 2nd, Saturday, April 2nd of next year for the bike ride. And I think that's basically all the board news. Does anybody have any questions about anything pertaining to the club or ham radio? Hearing none, I guess, Joe, you're going to do a presentation on GMRS?
Yeah, I have a little information on what we're doing in GMRS. Howard, did you have anything else you wanted to get talked about before that?
No, I'm good. We look forward to the hearing about it, Joe.
All right, let me, all right, it probably is here when I share this. It will undoubtedly not let me see anything else that's going on when I hit present.
It's showing up on the screen.
Right, okay. All right, well, I can see you guys over in the corner here. All right, I can see a few of you guys anyway. Yeah, okay. Fortunately, I don't think I can make that window any bigger, so I can't actually see very many of you. All right. This is a little information about what we're doing with the Radio Watch. It's kind of an update. There are, no, I want to move that. Thanks. Right, okay. So here we are. I'm pushing on the right buttons now. Okay, so the effort to do Radio Watches, just as review, started after the Paradise Fire. Alan, whose presentation we were just talking about at Middletown, was kind of the instrumental guy, and him and Bob Hess basically were the two people who, W1RH, Bob Hess, were the kind of the two people who came up with this idea and started doing it and started making lots of presentations. There was a link right there on the screen right now, which is to a version of that presentation that was given in January of 2020. It was recorded in YouTube by the Sierra Foothills Club. They do that for all the people. If you ever give a presentation to the Sierra Foothills Club, it will end up being recorded on YouTube. And so like my Puerto Rico presentation I did ages ago is over there on YouTube and stuff like that. It's very useful. You always want to give a presentation to that radio club because they do this thing where they take the voiceover and the slides and they put them together in one YouTube thing, and it looks really cool. Alan had given a earlier version of the presentation at our club in either September or October of 2019. It was immediately pre-COVID right in there. So basically the way this works is a bunch of what's happening is small neighborhood groups. The most popular name is Fire Safe Council, which actually is a term of art in California for this sort of neighborhood organization. Are getting together and they're creating essentially a little radio network that they can all talk to each other when there's actually something going on. So if they see something, or if there's activity, or there's going to be a road closed, or that sort of thing, they will use that network as kind of like a little mini emergency services network. It's kind of the same way we use the Amador repeater, but on a generally slightly smaller scale. And by using GMRS, they get the advantage that anyone can get a license, right? You pay your $75, you get a license, right? So so that's what's happening. There are actually 5 of those up and running in El Dorado County right now, and there's one in Amador, and there's about to be a second one, which is what we're going to talk about that. So in Amador, Fiddletown got onto this train in 2020. Their repeater actually came up in May of this year. which was good timing because it was like right at the beginning of fire season. So within a few weeks of them starting their net, there was actually events to talk about, right? Bob and N6FYN, who is here, who's actually on this call right now, is actually the guy who runs their net for them. So he is, so Wednesday at 7, I think it's 7, he's on there running the net on GMRS. And so I normally check into his net because I can hear them from here. This system was used during Caldor and a bunch of smaller fires for people to talk to each other and report stuff. There was a couple fires that were like literally a mile or two down the street from me that were smaller, where people, you know, saw smoke and reported it and found out whether or not it had been reported to the fire department, and then we would put out on there when the fire department was responding and stuff like that. And so so it was useful to people. I don't know, Bob, if you're out there, you're involved in all of this. What do you think about it? Maybe he's not. He's muted. So, all right, we'll get you at the end. So a second group is starting up, which is the Lockwood Neighborhood Radio Watch, which is actually, Lockwood is the area that I live in, right here. It's a little further into Amador County. I have some maps in a moment to do that. They have just started a steering group. They've been meeting regularly every couple of weeks since September. We don't have an obvious, well, we might have, but we didn't at the start. We did not have an obvious site for our repeater the way Fiddletown did. So they're actually raising some money. And so one of the things they're going to be doing is participating in the Giving Tuesday operation on November 30th, which is a big Amador Community Foundation does that. There's an event down at the Drexel Catholic Church in Jackson. That's the Catholic church that looks like it's a car dealership because it was a car dealership down there. And we are currently testing repeater locations as well. So we have a test repeater that we have borrowed from the El Dorado Club. They have a GMRS repeater in a box. It's very nicely put together, actually. It's kind of nice, but it's a little tiny, you know, it's a couple of GM300s with duplexer and a repeater controller in a little wood box. And so we can plug it in and set it up and test it and drive around and see where you can get coverage from it. So we did that for one location last Saturday, and we have it up at a second location, which is actually this picture that's on here on the right. The tower on the left, which is really on that tree, is actually where our antenna is right now. It's about 100 feet off the ground. It's pretty cool up there. But that repeater is up right now. I could tee it up in a moment. So this is kind of the service areas that we're looking at. The Lockwood areas is kind of this strip in the middle here that includes Daffodil Hill in the middle. The little dots on this map are all served houses in the Lockwood Fire Agency. So, and they're different colors based on what city they're in. The blue ones are all in Volcano, and the yellow ones you probably can't see up at the top that are they're in Pioneer, and the black ones down here at the bottom, they're in Sutter Creek. They're actually in Sutter Creek zip code, right? So, but there's 2 fire stations in the Lockwood Fire District, and they cover this, more or less this area that's all along Shake Ridge Road up here. And so that's the area we're trying to cover with this radio network.
Question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, if I can raise my hand and you would see it, but
I don't think well, I do have the participant window. So if you try it, yeah, I might see it.
okay. So I live off of Highway 88, so I wouldn't be in the coverage area, correct?
Probably not. The matter of fact, this whole area that's like Pine Drive East and this up at the top here, that may be extremely difficult to cover from along with the rest of this. So they may end up doing one in Amador Pines. Actually, that little green symbol up there, right where underneath Pine Drive East there, I've got my cursor sitting on. I don't know if you can see it, but
I see it.
Yes.
yeah, that location is the location of the repeater that Amador Pines runs. They have a commercial repeater that they use for their fire trucks or their road maintenance people. And it's located at that location. And so we may need to put one up there to cover that area if they want one up there. So I'm thinking that organization may end up eventually doing their own. But they're actually technically a lot of that, about half of Amador Pines is actually in the Lockwood service area. So we're trying to cover up there as much as we can in there.
Another question.
Sure.
What's the affected radiated power that you're allowed for a repeater?
50 watts,
Yeah.
which is actually fine.
That's ERP, right? So that includes the gain of the antenna.
You got me there. I'd have to.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that could be fairly important.
I'd have to go read the regs on that.
Yeah, I would think 50 watts with a good antenna at the right height location would be pretty effective.
Well, right now the antenna is a 4-bay folded dipole that we are testing with at like 100 feet. So that's like almost the ideal situation. Like we're never going to get a better antenna and height than that.
No, that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that antenna is pretty close to where Fire Station 1 is. It's not actually marked on this map. So what we've been doing is we've been doing tests at different locations. So last weekend, we put a repeater down at where one of the water tanks is, just above Station 2, which is on the left-hand side of this map. There's a fire station there, and the antenna was kind of right above that on a little hill above it. And this is the result of one of our tests. What we did was we had people drive around and try to make contacts with either handhelds or mobile radios. And then I wrote down all the locations where they were on a piece of paper, and then I plotted them on Google Maps. And the little symbols are, if you have a green car, if a mobile was able to get in from that location. You have the two little hikers that you see down here. That's where handheld worked, because there is no handheld symbol in Google Maps. So I used the little hikers for handheld. And then the little red triangles are places we tried that where there was no coverage of any kind. And so you can see, like in the town of Volcano down here, there was no coverage. But if you went back up on this hill on the other side, the side going up towards Pine Grove, we had lots of coverage over there. That's not really in our coverage area, but we did have a whole bunch of GMRS coverage over there. So there was a lot of coverage on the southern, the western side of the area, but the coverage up on the eastern side, and there was no coverage at all off Shake Ridge Road in Amador Pines. So we're probably not going to use this location. So that was all Saturday. There was like 5 or 6 of us doing this, driving around. Some of them were GMRS people, some of them were radio people. Don was there doing that, and Bob and a bunch of other random people.
Out of area.
I think someone's phone is ringing.
Out of area.
All right. So the current site we're at, this is the expected coverage map from it. I just did this map today. So the repeater is up here, and because it's a big tower, it has a lot of elevation. We get much stronger coverage in this central area near the repeater. There's also some coverage down here along Shake Ridge, but there isn't actually a lot of coverage. If you notice, there isn't a lot of coverage below Fire Station 2 from this location. And that generally, you're using UHF and you're using, GMRS is on 462, so you're using UHF and you're using it in an area with a lot of trees and a lot of terrain close to the repeater. And so the result is it's going to be really hard to cover this entire area with a single site. So we may end up putting a second site down at Fire Station 2 or somewhere in that area to get these people down that are down in this area down here into the system. But as you can see, like this site does a pretty good job reaching up here. There's actually a lot of locations in Amador Pines that are actually covered by this, or at least we think they are. We need to verify that with like actually on the ground with real radios. And the other thing about this site is it's so high that as soon as we put this repeater on the air, like literally 5 minutes after I hooked this repeater up, some guy in Auburn called me and said, "Hey, I'm on your repeater. Like, are you going to leave that on this frequency?" And because there were a couple of other GMRS repeater owners that were talking to me. I got a call later in the day from a guy who was in Sunol, who has a repeater in Sunol, and on the same frequency, right? Because the problem is there's only 7 repeater frequencies on GMRS. In the entire radio service, there's only 7 repeater frequencies.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
I'm just saying that's not very many. Yeah.
That is not a lot. GMRS is becoming really popular now. Like it is a huge growing radio service. If you want to find out more, there's a site called mygmrs.com, which actually, like, if you join that site, you can see a lit map of all the repeaters. What's happening is CERT organization over in the Bay, all the CERT organizations are putting up GMRS repeaters over there. So this is one problem with GMRS, and the guys in Amador, in El Dorado County are actually already thinking about maybe moving to a commercial frequency, to some commercial frequencies, so that we can get off of GMRS because of the co-channel problem. So far, it hasn't been a big deal. Like the sites in Amador, we've been able to, like, I sent a bunch of notes to people who own those repeaters and said, I want to pick a different PL than you, so tell me what your PL is, or let me tell you what I want mine to be, and you tell me if you're using it, right? And so I'm trying to coordinate, kind of in the background, but there's no infrastructure like there is in ham radio to create. Like, there's a coordinating council for repeaters in Northern California, and all that stuff. And so when you put up a repeater, you have to get them to tell you, okay, this frequency and location is okay. Well, there's no infrastructure like that for GMRS. So, we're kind of, this is new stuff, right? We're kind of exploring the world here. So I think we will have problems with that, especially being we're high here, right? Like that repeater is at 3,000 feet, right? I'm at 3,400 feet right here. The guy was actually complaining about me getting into my repeater, wiping out his users on the input to his repeater in Sunol.
Right.
Right. That's 75 miles from my antenna, right? 75 or 80 miles from my antenna. He says, yeah, you're wiping out my users. And like when you're talking on your repeater, nobody can get into mine, or my users can't get into my repeater. And the problem is the repeater hears me better than it hears their users. And so there's capture, there's FM capture effect, right? So an FM receiver will go to the strongest signal it hears, and it doesn't have to be local. So that's a problem with GMRS. And I said, well, okay, just be patient. We'll only be here for a week. We're going to go to a different frequency. And he was like, okay with that. And I said, I'm not going to get on the repeater and chat all the time, but we will have this problem to a certain extent, right? Anyway, so the other thing is, yes, we are raising funds at the Neighborhood Radio Watch. This is how to get in contact with the Radio Watch. If you want to join it, if you live in the service area, feel free to join. We would love to have more hams join, because having a few people who know how to use radios involved is extremely helpful. Right now, there's 4 or 5 hams that are involved, like Aaron, who's not here for this meeting, but he's a member of the club, and or at least I think he's a member of the club. And a couple of other hams that I know locally are also involved. Anyway, so questions, or Don, I think you were involved in the testing. You want to chat about your experience or whatever?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit. I guess you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, it was GMRS is really, it's really a lot of line of sight. I mean, you've got to, boy, you are on a little hill and you get into the repeater, and Joe could hear me and we could go back and forth. And in some areas we could use the HT, and others I had to use the mobile. But then you travel just a little ways away because of the hill, and Joe, nothing. He couldn't do anything until I traveled back up the hill. I kind of worried that the radio didn't work anymore. But it's really kind of, with all the trees and the topography, up here is really, really different. I think we're going to have a lot of repeaters in order to be able to cover the areas that we want to cover. Especially, I mean, down 88 here we have the same kind of problem of hills and valleys. So kind of interesting. So, but it was a good test, and a lot of driving, and saw areas that I've never seen before. So it was a good experience. That's it.
Okay, so anyone else here?
Joe, what's the price tag on the repeater?
Well, you could probably do one for as little as $1,000.
Okay.
I think it'll probably be, because you need to have a duplexer, you need to have a controller, you need to have,
Yes.
and you need to have 2 radios, but the radios can be like GM300s or something, which are not that expensive.
Mhm.
But you could probably do it for under $1,000 if you were like really ghettoing it. It's probably a couple grand for like, new hardware and, like a better duplexer and stuff like that. That little tiny duplexer, that there's a duplexer like this big in the temporary repeater. I would show it to you, except it's installed over at the other location.
Okay.
I have a couple of things to say about that. The GMRS for Fiddletown. One of the reasons we did it is because people wanted to know that to get some response. They couldn't rely on Code Red anymore. I virtually had people thank me that we've been able to come up on GMRS, and people are taking it very seriously here. Some people said they have 30 to 45 minutes pre-warning that the event is going on before they get any Code Red, if they get a Code Red at all. And that's been the real lifesaver of this whole system. We started this whole thing in Fiddletown back in March and April, that time frame of last year. And we now have, I just got another member yesterday on the net. I've got 49 people signed up, and I've got about another 30 in the wings that want to get on board. So the word is spreading, and it's spreading not so much because people want to know about amateur radio. I mean, they do to a certain extent. We've had some people actually go above it and get their technician's license and so on through it. But it's more because you can't rely on Code Red. You can't rely, obviously, watch Alan's presentation. You can't rely on cell phone or anything else. Steve Allred here, who has the repeater in Fiddletown, he's got that antenna up, I believe it's about 80 feet up in the air. And what Joe said about the coverage being out in the areas and stuff, I've had people contact me that they're in the group, but they're mobile and they're in Sacramento and they get the signal. So it really depends where you are, but it's been a huge success here. And anything we can do to help Lockwood District out, I think people are more than willing to do it. And it's been a very good thing.
Thank you, Bob. This is K6ARC, Paul. And What was the problem with Code Red? Where the people were registered, right? And they just didn't get the message? Is that?
No, the code red didn't come in to anywhere from a half hour to some cases an hour later after the incident had already been reported.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's at least one incident where I heard about it on the fire. I heard the tone out on the fire because I listened to the fire, like the entire fire season. The radio right there is on fire, and I announced that there was a fire going on over on the GMRS system. That like, hey, there's a fire response going on. If you see fire engines, that they're going here. And then we had aircraft response, and I saw that on the coming in, and so I put that on. I put that on the GMRS machine, and that was the first a lot of people down there heard about it, except the people who were right next to the fire, who obviously knew about it, and then somebody who could see it was talking about it at about the same time. So, and that was probably 30 to 45 minutes before it turns out they needed to close a section of Fiddletown Road. And so they wanted people to evacuate. They wanted to evacuate people from a certain section of Fiddletown Road. And we heard them ask for that on the fire frequency. And then apparently the code red went out like 15 minutes later. But so there was actually, like, if you were listening to the radio, you knew something was going on in your neighborhood like a lot earlier. At that time, and that happened a couple other times, or a couple other fires where that happened.
I had one user that was actually that fire you're talking about was coming down Fiddletown Road. They were like the second on scene that the fire had just started. She pulled her cell phone out, no coverage. There was no way she could do anything and everything. She pulled the GMS out, there was coverage, and she was able to put that broadcast out. People knew about it right away. So that's one case. You put another one out where fire was in another area going on, that aircraft were responding to it. Another GMS user from the group, the message went out on the GMS. He lives in the area. He jumped in his car, went over to find out it was on private property. And it turns out that the owner has his own water tenders and everything else. He was able to put the message out that, no, the fire is under control. I've got all kinds of comments. That's what it's good for. People need to know. They need to know right away that there's something going on and how to respond to it. I've had other people in the fires going up at the Calder fire and so on. People living on the El Dorado Amador line, literally on that line. The code red went out on one side, on the El Dorado side, and it didn't go out on the Amador side. And they came up and just, what do I do? And it turns out in that instance, the sheriff from Tracy showed up at their door because everybody else was involved with the Calder fire. So Tracy was filling in and told them, no, you don't have to evacuate yet. This is on the other side. GMRS is wonderful. People want to know that information ahead of time. And that's something I think this club really should promote. There's a lot of people that would get interested in it. It's worked out really well in Fiddletown.
Yes, good.
All right, so so that's that. Any other questions, comments, interest, whatever? All right. So what else do we want to talk about?
I just have a comment to kind of tag on to your comment, and would be for our people to leave their radios on if they're going to be around or in their vehicles, so fire alerts can be posted on our repeater too. That would be helpful. We have better coverage, better,
Yeah, the
better,
problem is
better frequency, really. I mean, for communication, UHF is, with all the trees and everything else, it's not nearly as effective as 2 meters.
yeah, we do put some information out on the hammer, like the ham repeaters were being used in El Dorado County a lot during the Calder operation. Like,
Yeah.
when we were doing animal control stuff over there, we were on the Sierra 900 system like all the time, and stuff like that. The problem is most people don't get ham licenses. So you're going to let other hams know. There are, I suppose there's some people who scan the repeater, the ham repeaters in an area who aren't hams, but generally speaking, that's a small number of people. And so the reason the GMRS works is because they can all talk, right? So they can all get on. It's easy
But
to
they
get
could,
on.
but they could have, I mean, you comment and I do as well. Monitor the main fire frequency for our area. And, repeaters are scanners are, for your house are pretty cheap. I would encourage the GRMS people and ham radio operators to have a scanner for the purpose of monitoring the fire frequency.
Yeah, I've gotten that question from a number of the Fiddletown people. Like there's a bunch of them that have, like, I've gone to a couple of their meetings and
Yeah.
they will ask me, like, what frequencies should I put in my scanner? And so I have a little frequency list that I send out, and I put the amateur repeaters, the fire frequencies, and the GMRS repeater all in there. So that, like, you should scan all of this stuff to know what's going on in your area.
Yeah.
But
Because really, if you think about it, if the coverage is kind of limited and you start putting quite a few of these repeaters all on the same frequency, pretty soon you're going to get a pretty good coverage in a reasonably broad area, which is, I think, good. Could be good if it's managed properly.
yeah, we have to be careful about putting repeaters on the same frequency because they tend to, like, they interfere with each other, right?
Yeah, that's the
But
The other problem I can say that we had in our test last week, testing out the Lockwood system, somebody on Simplex broadcasting at the same time we were trying to broadcast. That was actually a big problem.
yeah, it actually stopped us for a while there during the test because
I don't know what we can do about that.
they were capturing my radio, so I couldn't hear the repeater that was next to me.
I see.
So what I did this time is we put the repeater up, and now we have like a couple days to go around and find things. So I am looking for people to do that tomorrow, by the way, is drive around and actually see what the coverage of this site that's in now is. I mentioned that on the interest group mailing lists a couple of times, that I need people to do this tomorrow if we can, tomorrow afternoon or something, just drive around and I'll listen to the repeater and write down everybody's location, but I need people to, like, go try a few different locations, like we did last week, but same frequency, everything like that. But just try it and try to talk to me on the repeater, because I can get into that repeater from right here in my house. Matter of fact.
So 265 is not available.
There you are. That's the repeater.
I picked a repeater from my house in Redmondville and Fiddletown. I hit it just fine. So the coverage is just really pretty good.
Yeah, no, you're if you look on the map up here, you're right around the top of this map that I was showing before. All right. So enough about that. Other stuff, things people want to talk about.
There's a free app for your phone. It's called Scanner Radio, and it has all of the public service agencies for Amador, among others. It's nationwide, but you can just listen to the public service agencies in Amador County, and it's a free app. You just have to put up with ads, but other than that, it's a very good app to listen to what fire units are doing. It's called Scanner Radio. I don't know if I have an iPhone. I don't know if it's available for Android devices, but it is for the iOS, Apple's iPhone.
Yeah, I think I've used Scanner Radio before. Actually, it's been around for a number of years.
Yes, yeah.
There's also a Broadcastify feed, which is, I know there's one for El Dorado. I think there's one for Amador as well, which has the fire people on it. I was using that for a while on my machine here.
Yeah, broadcastify.com.
Yeah, actually, Broadcastify, amusingly enough, is owned by the same people who own RadioReference.com, which is where you get all the scanner frequencies from.
Joe, I had talked to you at our gathering when we were going out testing about, I have one user in the Fiddletown group that couldn't hit the repeater. And I've since gone over to her house. She had it set on the simplex. She didn't have it set on the repeater mode, so that's been resolved. Everything's fine.
Can she actually hit the Fiddletown repeater now?
Yeah, easily, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good then.
Well,
Yeah, this
thank
is
you,
the
Joe.
thing. When you get one of these systems up, this is what happens: is you end up with a lot of users who have like radio-ish type issues.
That scanner radio app is available on the Google Play Store.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Cool.
Does anybody have any, that's it for you, Joe, right?
Yeah. No, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Joe, for that wonderful presentation. Howard, do you have anything to add to the presentation or?
No, I have my questions answered today. I think it's a good system to have for people that are not interested in ham radio. But I would begin to encourage people as they get used to operating that, and maybe listening to our repeater and our nets, that they might consider, we're thinking about a technician license. And Don and I are involved with that process pretty heavily, and we can come out and speak to their group about how easy it would be to get a ham radio license. And it's only, it's a lot cheaper. It's not dollars.
So
At
far.
least not until next year.
Until next year, the price goes up next year.
Well, it does, but they say I've heard comments that it's not going to be implemented for some reason. But who knows,
The ham radio license fee was going to go up and the GMRS license fee was going to go down.
Oh,
They were going to make them, I don't want to say equal. I have to reread the article. I'm not sure.
Well, I guess it's a wait and see thing, but I'm sure you've probably got the latest dope on it. So, but anyway, it's very reasonable to get a ham radio license. And with Don's careful tutelage at the ham crams, we had 6 out of 6 get a technician license, and we could expect anywhere between 4 and 6, I think, every in that range every time we get a group going. So people can get a license pretty reasonable, and they can get equipment very reasonable that works amazingly well.
Don, and again, comment, Joe had a big part of that ham cram by
He did.
far. Yes. very
Yeah, Joe was I should have included Joe in that comment, because he did. He had a great deal to do with it. But we can market that to a new group of people. They might be amazed how easy it would be to get a ham license. Just one Saturday. That's pretty and very little cost, and some help getting everything started, I'm sure. If they're worried about, I don't think I could get a station set up, I'm sure they can.
Well, we can advertise that.
Yeah, I think
on the weekly GMRS net when it's close to the time for the ham cram. As a matter of fact, the last time I sent the invite to the ham cram to everybody in the Fiddletown group, and there were a couple people from Fiddletown who came over. got,
Yeah. Good, yeah. That's good. Yeah, well, I think
W6.
that we ought to continue to work with, and as we get a new exam date set up, which I hope will be, every 6 months for our club. I think we should be doing 2 a year.
well, it won't be April 2nd. So
April 2nd.
This is Don, W6FS. Hey, Mike, what did you think about the ham cram? Was there things that we could have done better?
I thought it was very well presented, actually. Joe's leadership in what we needed to focus on was right on target. I would say that I personally had my doubts about whether or not my brain could hold all that and regurgitate at the proper time, but obviously it did work. And when I took the test, I went, oh, that's easy. Oh, I know that. Oh, that's great. So effective, definitely. If you want to make it better, maybe have an option of some cold lunches you can buy for $1 or a couple bucks. I don't know, but effective, definitely.
We had I know the food situation wasn't as good there. We have been down at the ambulance center conference room in Martell, and that location was better in terms of food availability, but the room was small, and we thought we were going to have a larger crowd than we did. So that's why we went to the church. So that room's available to us, but we had so many people say they were interested. We expected about 20 people, and that didn't materialize.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your comments.
There may be a few people, that show interest, but, there are people that for health problems and so on, just don't have any short-term memory like you have, Mike, and they probably aren't going to be able to utilize the ham cram process if their short-term memory is really knocked out.
well, across thousands of people that we've done it down in the Bay, we've gotten 85 to 90% success rate. Depends on the class. Sometimes it's a little bit lower. The kids that are below about 10, when a kid's below about 10, then it becomes a little bit more dicey whether or not they're going to actually be able to focus and actually retain the information. So we think the success rate is only about 50% for kids 10 and below. But I think we had an 8-year-old get their ham license at one of our ham crams.
That's amazing.
Which is the youngest one, I believe, there. But I've probably been in ham crams with 1,500 people down in the Bay, because I've done like probably 20 of them. Matter of fact, the week before ours, I did one that had 28 or 30 people in Los Altos.
Oh,
I wasn't that was Ross was the instructor for that one, but I was a VE for that one. So,
how'd they do over there with 28?
90%.
90%. Well,
25. I think we had 8 of those were generals, and the other 21 or 22 were techs. And so we had one person who took both exams and passed. And then we had like 22 people who passed the tech out of 24 or 25 who tried. And we had like 6 people who passed the general, I think. And there was like 2 or 3 people who didn't pass the general. And we also gave an extra exam to somebody who came in just to get one.
Walked in. Yeah.
Kind of like we did at our ham cram, like we just said.
Yeah.
We just kind of threw it open and said, if you're in the club and you want to take
upgrade.
If you want to take an upgrade to an extra and you've studied, you can just come in and we'll give you an exam. So.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank Dawn too for being picking up the job there of being the head person for our group, taking that over, because it's a lot of work, and there's follow-up, and I know Dawn was very careful in taking care of all the paperwork, and I appreciate that too.
His communications out to the people like me that were interested was great too.
Yeah, he had good communication skills too. I mean, I got in the front, and I was surprised that we didn't have more people show up. Maybe it was a bad weekend, but I would hope that some of those will come through in the future and take the ham crown.
Well, I had 5 people respond that unfortunately they could not attend, but they wanted to be on the list for the next one.
Well, that's good.
So, I mean, they responded back that they just, scheduling just did not allow it to happen.
Yeah. Well, after the first of the year, we can talk about a date.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe March.
That might be good.
Because you want to get it to where it's not snowing.
Yeah, that's right. We'll just have to play it by ear, see what the weather situation is. But March would be good,
Especially if we hold it in Jackson, that's not as big a factor, right? Like at the church, snow is a problem.
Wouldn't be as big a factor for sure. And we could, talk to them a little bit, make sure they're serious, and if we could limit it to half a dozen, we'd be fine in that room down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that room would probably be fine for like 10. Right?
Yeah,
We had
yeah, sure.
16. You guys were panicking because we had 16 signed up when we.
Yeah, we had
reserved
a
the
lot, awful lot, and then it just sounded like we'd be overcrowded down there, but we wouldn't be with 8 to 10. No, we'd be fine. We could do it.
We had 16 sign up and 1 walk-in, so plus
Yeah.
two generals wanted extra. So
Yeah, we were right there at 20, and it just seemed like, oh wow, we're in trouble with the smaller conference room. But that's nice down there. It's a nice conference room, and it's quiet, and we've got food availability down there in the area. You can grab a hamburger or a taco or whatever you want, very quickly.
Well, I want to thank all 3 of you, Don, Howard, and Joe, for putting that together. That was excellent. And also I want to thank Don for the link for the booster shot. I went and I signed up today. I got my appointment today and went down and got my booster at the public health agency at the HHS building. So thank you, Don, for sending out that link. That was great.
For anybody that hasn't been down to that county building for a shot of some kind, they're very efficient down there.
Yes.
Very careful, and they aren't neophytes and running a shot clinic. They do a good job.
Yes, exactly. Has Robert been showing up to the your Thursday luncheons, Howard?
Some, not every lunch, but his job is got 2 jobs now, so
Okay.
the jobs are starting to interfere a little bit with coming, but
Right.
he has been, and he gets on the 6-meter net we have on 50.350 megahertz. Steve gets on there and Joe gets on there, I get on there, and others too. So John Nichols, KN6 CPA has been getting on, and
Uh-huh. Good.
different people have shown up to get on periodically. So we have a good group. The Sunday lunch is breakfast. I mean, is just gradually disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I haven't been in a couple of Sundays. They're the third Sunday of the month, but I haven't been down for a couple of them. And Jim Marshall was always faithful about coming down, and he's moved to Carmichael,
Texas.
so he's
Oh.
he's no longer making the breakfast, and so it's just you know, it's just gradually thinned out over a period of time. The food's good at the Waffle House, but Don came for a long time, and situation there changed for him some, I think. So anyway,
And guys were walking into those areas and couldn't find them. They were that deep. So, you know, it's very sensitive, but they'll use them to find out the hot spots. And that's before we lifted the evacs.
I think Bob left his mic on.
Yes, I think he left his mic on and somebody called him, and now he's gone. Well, no, actually, he's still there. Right, he muted himself. All right.
Okay. Steve, are you going to be at the December luncheon, or before you go? When are you supposed to leave?
We're planning on leaving in May.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have a fixed date yet, but we want to wait for the weather to clear up between here and New Mexico. So we transport all our furniture stuff to New Mexico and RV. So I think we're planning on being at the Christmas luncheon.
Good.
I just need to know, do we need to pay ahead of time, or you pay at the hotel?
You can pay at the hotel,
Okay.
because we've always we write a check to the restaurant at the luncheon, so you can pay at the hotel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Howard, you mentioned something about a breakfast at the Waffle Shop. What?
Yeah, we had a breakfast that was on the third Sunday of each month that usually started around, well, we usually got served about 9 o'clock, but people would start drifting in for coffee about 8:15 or so. And we thought we had everybody that might show up, we'd have the waitress take orders. And at one point, I think we had husband and wives were invited. And so anyway, we have as many as 20 people, wouldn't you say, Steve?
I would say that, yeah.
And Don, and then, you know, it just started to go downhill for some reason. It was always advertised well on the repeater, so I don't know what we could do to encourage that back. I just really don't know. It was just an informal get together. You didn't have to be a member of the radio club. We had people come from Stockton up to have breakfast with us, but some of the people became infirmed and no longer involved. You know, some of the people were mainstays.
I remember going when, like, you had to get there by 8:15 to get a seat.
Yeah, and we kept moving.
It was a problem getting a seat at the big table.
Yeah, so it was a nice group. I'd like to see us do that again. Some of the clubs have done real well with that kind of breakfast. And some clubs have done real well with nets too in the morning, you know, informal an informal go to work net kind of thing around 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock to maybe 8:30 with a morning net, you know, an informal net.
We already have an 8 a.m. net on our repeater. It just only has 2 members. There's I can't remember I can't remember the call signs, but there's like 2 people that you can set your watch by. They will
There's a Queenhart and one over in Auburn.
Yes. And our
Yeah.
repeater is like halfway in between them or something. And so that's the only way they can talk to us.
Yeah, they get together frequently on those in the morning. Like you say, you can almost set your watch. If I'm going up to the Mount Zion Tower and get all set up at 8 o'clock, I usually turn my handheld on, and they always pop up. So
yeah, they do RVing too. They go RVing together. So I think that's how they know each other. And so
they're pretty established friends. Yeah.
But they meet on our repeater because our repeater is like halfway between their locations or something.
Right.
All right. So if we have nothing else, we should probably close the official part of the meeting. I'm willing to let the Zoom sit on for a little while if people want to chat.
Yes, turn it back to Paul.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you again for the wonderful presentation. Does anybody have any questions about anything ham related? Again, save the 2 dates to save are Saturday, December 4th and Saturday, April 2nd of next year. Those are the 2 dates. And we're going to have field day again this year. It's the last weekend in June. So save that date also. There will be more information about all 3 events coming, but does anybody have any further questions before I close the meeting?
Is Don buying the raffle prizes again for the Christmas party? W6.
They're laying over here on the ham cram box.
Yeah, there was a
Both-
previous board meeting.
Both radios and the antenna.
All
They're
right.
already received.
Great.
Good job,
They still-
Don.
They still belong to me, but I haven't seen John.
Well, so you mean we're going to have used raffle items this year?
Only slightly used, right?
Yeah, if anybody has any good or equipment that they're not using, they can always donate it for the raffle.
Yes.
A couple of times we got some nice raffle baskets and different pieces of equipment. And one year we had a lot of scraps and stuff out of an estate. Boy, the stuff went like hotcakes
Yeah.
for raffle items.
Or even if you want to donate a bottle of wine, that would be great. It's so keep that in mind. And hearing no other questions, I'm closing the meeting at 8:05. And thank you again, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you, everyone. Take
Thanks,
care.
Joe, for setting the Zoom up.
Thank you.
and we had, Joe, we had 13 because Greg and Lucille were counted as 1 in the participants. And I think.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. I didn't see Lucille there, but she was probably around somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Popping back and forth to another meeting.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, that's good. You know, that's about what we used to have for in-person meetings when we had them
Exactly.
over
Oh,
at the
yeah.
Volcano Tech Center. So I will do the usual thing sometime today or tomorrow. I will put the official part of this meeting up on YouTube and then send it out to K6ARC.org on that, you know, if you weren't here, you could see the meeting.
So,
There-
Joe, before you go, do you have Alan Thompson's email address?
Yeah.
I went on to ARRL because I want a copy of his presentation, but he had no email listed.
You can send him mail at n6wn@awrl.net.
N6.
His call sign at awrl.net.
Okay.
Let me
Okay,
see.
good. Thank you.
Oh, actually, I will, you can also, here, I'll put this in the chat. Can you see the chat? Oh, can you see the chat? There.
There it is.
Yeah, that's
Thank
probably,
you.
that's probably the better email address. I think the ARRL one forwards to that one, but
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before we close? We'll close at 8:07. How about that?
all right.
Let me, before you close.
Well, I'll leave this on if you guys want to chat. Yeah, I can leave it on for a little while if you want, but once you close the official part of the meeting, if you want to.
Right, I just want to write down this.
Chat with each other.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see everybody on the net next week.
And if you don't,
Praise everyone.
at least, and maybe at the Christmas meeting.
And maybe at the Christmas meeting. Yes.
In person,
In person, yes. Yeah.
I'll try and bring some bottles of wine or something for a donation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I might bring a couple bottles of wine. I've got some wine I can donate. So
That would be great.
if we have more bottles of wine than we have people at the restaurant, we could just start drinking them.
I'll bring the corkscrew.
We may have to take, if we do that in that restaurant, we may have to take corkage, by the way.
I don't drink, so nothing for me. So
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right.
All right. We'll see everybody later.